Welcome on board today, Alexandra from the gallery. It's another Tate Brownlee Real Estate podcast. Love having you here. Look, let's break the ice. Tell us a bit about yourself first and your career.
Thanks for having me, Tate. Great to be sitting here and having a chat with you. So my name's Alexandra. I've been with Gallery Group for 8 years, but I've been in the property industry for over 20. Started really in property buying my own, and then quickly realising that I couldn't keep up with the Sydney property market at the time. So my husband and I continued to buy properties that we could afford, and now there's a really key phrase that everybody throws around, being a rent-vester. And
wow.
We've been a rent-vester for the last 20 years. October last year, we moved into our first family home. So
Congrats.
It's the first time that I'm paying a mortgage and not a rent. But we have invested right across the eastern seaboard. We now live here on the Gold Coast. Over my career, I've always worked for a Gold Coast developer. So even when I lived in Sydney, I was still talking to Sydney investors or Sydney tree or sea changers moving up to the Gold Coast or into Brisbane. So it's an area that I've been selling and working in for the last 20 years.
And what was your family needs? What sort of property did you buy?
So we would have liked a home, but I've got two boys. I've got 16 and 10. So life is actually really busy. So we've actually ended up in an older style apartment, oversized apartment, but just allowing us to have that low key maintenance of a weekend where I'm a beach lover. So for me to be so close to Burleigh Heads, I would rather be lying on the sand at Burleigh than helping my husband mow the lawn. So we went from living in a house that we were renting in Burleigh and bought an apartment, and it's actually been terrific.
Yeah, it's a good lifestyle. And I think what you've hit on is really where the world is changing. And we'll touch on that a bit more today with what you bring to the table, because your products actually segue right into that difference of lifestyle that we all know and love right on the coast. So I think it's quite ambitious and unique to see a company like yours. You're right at the cutting edge of a whole new development, which I'm looking forward to hearing your story. And I love... we had a bit of a chat before about Salt and the original vision there. Do you want to share us a bit why the gallery, why that area, and how it all come to be?
So Gallery has been focused on South East Queensland for the last 15 years. Our offices are based in Sanctuary Cove. We've built over 100 homes in Sanctuary Cove. So we really understand that need for owners, whether you're an owner-occupier or an investor, to actually have that work-life lifestyle balance. And it's actually one of the key things that I actually think sets the South East Queensland market apart. Yep. Thinking about Sydney and Melbourne markets, these type of residential resort style living capabilities, they just don't exist. And if they do exist, they are well outside the reach of most owners. So what we actually could see is South East Queensland is tiny. The Gold Coast is tiny, right? Between the M1 and the hinterland and the beach, right? We're a long, skinny strip between the border and Brisbane. And so what we could see happening, especially in that Kingscliff, is that you actually had a really tightly held, localised market. It still had opportunity. You've had the Salt development come in, where you've had this mix of residential plus the traditional tourism style operations that's then been supported by the key lifestyles with the new supermarkets and the restaurants. Then even with Housey and House coming on board, that there was more people coming into the area that started to actually understand how well connected it is, especially to Ballina Airport or Gold Coast Airport, and that I think people started to see, right, this is actually still New South Wales. It's still got that beautiful coastal hinterland feel about it.
Yeah.
It's not Queensland. It's still New South Wales. But that Gold Coast and that Tweed Heads, I mean, apart from during COVID, that border is soft, right? You sort of don't even realise you cross a bridge and you've gone from Queensland to New South Wales. So then once we were already working with the previous owner of that land estate, and then when we knew that Stockland was looking after it, Stockland, obviously national developer,
driving force and
so focused on masterplanned communities and creating a lasting community and the infrastructure.
We've seen it, haven't we, all up the Gold Coast?
Correct. But you've also seen it, elsewhere in the country, that this is a passion piece for them. And so we saw that was a huge tick of approval and endorsement for that location. That Kingscliff area and that Casuarina area, I think, has got a lot to offer it. It's already well supported by local schools. You've got good access to the M1, but you're not far from Ballina or Byron or Tweed. You know, the employment hubs are many.
Or even Brisbane.
And even Brisbane. I mean, once you're on the M1, it's you just keep driving, right? And if you've got a good audible, you're there in no time.
That's right.
So we could just see that Sanctuary Cove is at a certain price point. We can see that lower Gold Coast market, especially around that Kira, Palm Beach, is, you know, that price is growing really, really quickly. But a stone's throw across the bridge and there's a brand new opportunity to go into something new that's community focused, and we wanted to be a part of it.
And I can see your passion with that too. Your clients in particular are exactly you, aren't they? These are the clients that you're aiming these projects at. You're looking for professional, either couples, families. The product is really exciting, which we'll get to in a moment as well. So you forged ahead. Your office is next door. Tell us about that and that inception.
So that was just lucky. We thought it's too far for somebody to come from Casuarina to Sanctuary Cove to have a look at a floor plan. So we wanted to be somewhere that was local, where people could actually understand what we were trying to achieve and could come in and have a conversation, because there's been obviously a lot of new development in the area. But what we're offering in the Kings Forest collection are terrace homes, and that's almost a new concept really right across the country, with you owning a small block of land and having a house that is built to the boundaries but is not a townhouse, where you're not having a shared wall and you're not having a shared roof, but you're actually maximising the footprint that you've got.
And you've still got green spaces.
And you've still got green spaces. And this is where what sets it apart is it just needs to be well designed. It really needs to be well thought out. And we have in-house design and drafting. And we've been able to deliver these homes time and time again. So we've really finessed the designs. We understand the people that live in them. We also understand the people that rent them. So we can actually make sure that we're designing an outcome that's livable for the needs of the household.
And it was something interesting for me, like having worked pretty closely over the years and been selling for so long, to see that concept and to see that actually get an approval. It's actually a first for the Tweed Shire that I'm aware of. Like, it's cutting edge, it's different. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that in itself was quite an amazing achievement, and it's exactly what I feel the market is demanding. Like, they're looking for what you've done.
So part of that has been driven by Stocklands themselves. So when we've worked with Stockland, and we've worked with them for the last 15 years, when we're looking at our design guidelines, Stockland usually have the toughest. You know, they're really specific about what the street frontage and the rear frontage and what the side elevations are going to look like. They are very strict on the materiality of the home. So we knew that we needed to come up with something special, but Stockland worked very closely with us. Because we're on that main spine road coming into the estate towards that brand new park that's just been released prior to Christmas, we knew that
Won't that be a statement?
Oh, absolutely. They wanted a statement, and they wanted to have these homes supporting the community they're going to be using the park. So we knew that there would be a huge amount of demand from young families wanting to buy and live in the area, but we also knew that there was also huge demand from families that would want to rent in the area. So we had to make sure that we could cater to all. So part of what these homes offer is 2 master suites. So there's a master suite on the ground floor, and then there's a second one on the first floor. And the reason for doing that is it gives the diversity in how the family works. So if you've got multi-generational families, or baby boomers, you know, especially if you've got an older parent that's still living with you. If you are a mixed family, you know, maybe it's the second marriage, potentially the third, where you might
they all live together.
Well, you know, but where you might have children from older children from a previous marriage, and you're needing to create spaces. And we look at this from houses that we're delivering elsewhere in South East Queensland, and who is buying them, who is renting them, and how they're living in them. I think the thing that is probably most interesting about these homes is the Fonzie flat, and I refer to it as the Fonzie flat because I can remember watching Happy Days, but it is the studio above the garage, right? And I think that's one of the things that makes this so appealing to so many people. It's either going to be your home office or your studio, especially if you're in a hybrid working environment, which I still think is quite prevalent in that Tweed, Lower Gold Coast location.
Can I just say something on that product too? That product in itself is probably one of the most unique things to bring to a market, because exactly what you're talking about, we manage, as you know, several hundred properties along that coastline, and time again, a lot of them are investors that are renting a property coincidentally there. They're working from home, they're jumping on the M1 to the airports, they're flying interstate, then they come back, they work from home. Exactly what you've built is exactly what the market's screaming for. Like I think you've hit the nail on the head.
We also have bizarrely had people reaching out to us to find out if any of the Fonzie flats would be available to rent, because we've also got people that are living elsewhere in the country that only need to be in that location 1 to 2 days a week and wanting to find out, instead of going and staying at a hotel for $350 a night, whether or not they could actually take a lease on a Fonzie flat and pay a weekly rent and have a base there for the 1 to 2 days a week that they're there. But also in terms of being able to have...
How brilliant's that?
Oh, and the rents that people have sort of suggested to us, I mean, you would know better than most, Tate, with having so many on the ground in that location. The 1 bedroom or the studio apartment is almost impossible to find in that location.
Correct.
And, you know, people
Demand a premium.
Exactly. You know, they were sort of talking about $450 a week, which I just find extraordinary. But it's the flexibility of the floor plan, you know, to have an older child living at home longer, to have it as an office studio, to have, you know, elderly parents living with you, to have it tenanted to somebody that's unconnected. I think it just allows for people to kind of consider the longevity of the property. And I think that's what is key to that location. It is the type of estate that I think you could move into now and literally grow through over the next few decades.
So also too, like depending on where the kids are coming and going, there's also a potential to maybe get a second income. There's also a potential that if you're getting to that later stages and let's say you're winding up business and lifestyle, you might decide to move all your worldly possessions into the studio and rent out the house. So these are our clients. This is Casuarina, this is Kingscliff, this is Salt, and now this is Kings Forest.
Yes.
But the problem is, I can literally only think of a couple of handfuls of properties that I've seen that are anything remotely like what we're talking about. And yet here we've got a product of how many that are going to be available to the market.
So there's 23 in this first collection.
Great.
So there's 23. They're all 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, plus the Fonzie flat. And if you're not old enough, you'll need to look up Fonzie from Happy Days. But it's basically a self-contained studio above the garage that's got its own kitchenette, its own private entry, and its own bathroom. It doesn't overlook the pool that's in the central courtyard of these homes, and it doesn't overlook the main dwelling. So the privacy and the access of the 2 dwellings are completely disconnected. But even the way we've designed the garage to have these great big sliding glass doors, because I remember when I had young kids and I didn't necessarily want them out on the road on their bikes, I would put the cars out of the garage and they would just drive around the garage. So I can almost even imagine what this lifestyle would look like, from this centralised courtyard to open up the big sliding doors back into your kitchen, lounge, dining, and then to open up the sliding doors into your garage and use that whole space for your family, for entertaining, and then to only be 2 kilometres to the beach, or less than that to even to get into the Casuarina shops. It's the livability of this that I think you'd be hard pressed to find anything of this quality, of this size, and in such a location anywhere. I couldn't even tell you where to go to look for it.
And the great news is, right, the product comes from a brand of trust. Like I always think, like, if you're doing your research and you're looking at this product and you're like, the gallery, we haven't heard from it in the Tweed Coast. I mean, you've been building product in one of the hardest markets, in the Sanctuary Cove, in the Lux market, and you've got the testimonies, you've got the rapport, and you've got the trust from previous clients. So that's massive to then bring that to the Tweed Coast, right? So, you know the old story, know, like, trust, and you've already got those three. That's powerful as well.
It's absolutely true. We started 15 years ago. We are privately owned by Adam and Kim Barclay. We've got trades that have worked with us for the entire 15 years. We're committed to partnerships. Our electrician has been our electrician since he was a young buck and started out.
That's nice.
We work with the same carpenters. We work with the same, carpet and tiling companies. So there's continuity in how we work. We deliver about 600 to 700 homes right across South East Queensland. We build out as far as Toowoomba and up as far as the Sunshine Coast. We have a client construction portal. So one of our key mandates in our business is transparency, and we have a client construction portal so that regardless of where you're located, you can log into this system 24/7, access all the documents attached to your build, see photos, see the exact status of what is happening with your build at any one times. We have we work under HIA, build contracts. There's LDs that are attached to it. We still are humbled by somebody choosing to work with Gallery. We don't take it for granted. We see that you're entrusting us with potentially one of the biggest investments you're ever going to make, whether or not that is for your own home to live in or whether or not you're trusting us to build an investment property. The trust and the commitment to us is still the same, right?
That's
because
huge.
if you're building an investment portfolio, that is to fund your retirement. There's a lot of pressure on us being able to deliver and deliver well. So we don't take it for granted. We're still at heart a small company. I've worked with Adam for 8 years, and part of his mandate to us is we only build where we could get in the car and drive to site ourselves. So we are still very much a boots on ground builder of choice.
And you're definitely leading by example too. Like, we're screaming out for houses in Australia. Last time I checked, the deficit's about 60,000 a year. So you guys are actually pioneering and carving the way, trying to put more houses when we desperately need them. And more importantly than that, you're listening to target markets. We've got an aging community. We've got a lot of change in the market, and you're functioning and creating products that work for all markets. I think that's a credit to what you guys. It's a little bit visionary, which is great. It's cutting edge, and it's what we desperately need in the community. So I'm excited to see these products built and ultimately see them out there, probably resales in year to come.
Absolutely. I think what you'll see, Tate, and I think the interesting thing about your business is that you're actually going to see the people that are moving in to live in these homes, either from an owner-occupier or they're going to be under your management to help people move into the area. So you'll actually probably be part of the life cycle of this project.
Yeah, that's right. For a long time.
Between now and retirement, which is, overwhelming at times, but it's also, I think one of the key fundamentals, when people talk about when they decide an area to invest in, to look at where Stockland is investing because of the town centres they bring, the infrastructure, the conservation presence, the bike paths, the parks. You're getting so much more in a Stockland estate than just a house. And as we know with these master plan communities, land prices don't go down. So the earlier you buy in...
Stage one's always the best time, isn't it? And
absolutely.
You're right in the hub of that.
And we're right at the hub of it. So I think for any client that is thinking about what life could look like on the Tweed Coast, they've really got to come and have a conversation with you about what's going on in the area, but also go and have a look at that estate, because I think it is something really special.
And I think on a personal note too, look, obviously Gallery are running a really good team. I think it's a credit that they've got someone like you at the helm. You're certainly a driving force, which is great. And I think as well, people buy from people, right? You've got a lovely team down there. I definitely encourage anyone to look at that project, meet with the team, see how that all works. There's a lot of different things that can happen and a lot of different moving parts when you're buying off the plan too. And you don't have to throw all the money and buy the whole thing at once. There's a stage and a process behind that. And I think the great initiative is to come in, meet the team. The product's innovative. They can definitely massage and I'm sure make it fit for your needs. And a lot of the locals need to come and probably have a look too, because a lot of our local market end up buying these new products. I've seen that time and time again too. It's a big part of a project like yours as well. So that's probably my couple of notes for the local market. Definitely come and have a look.
I think that's a really key thing for somebody to actually understand. We're delivering what we call a fixed priced full turnkey house and land package.
So it won't change.
So it won't change. So it is locked in, and our inclusion levels are excellent. You know, we're doing 2590 ceiling heights, square set ceilings, 900 millimetre appliances, fully ducted air conditioning, hybrid timber flooring. Like, we've actually designed this to have the sex appeal that you would want in a brand new seaside location.
Yeah, it's a higher level, right? It's a high level build. It's not just that basic level that we often see with project homes, right?
Correct.
It's another level.
And your landscaping's done, your pool's in. So you've got fly screens on your windows and doors. You've got roller blinds in the windows. These are the kind of homes that I get the most excited about, because these are the kind of homes that when you're handing over the keys on handover day, it's usually with the family backing up the truck and pizzas and champagne arriving and, camp beds being rolled out in the living space and people are moving straight into these homes. And that's what we design them to be. We design them to be a completely livable home. This is not a DIY project. This is not going to have sheets hanging from the front windows for the first 6 months. This is not going to be a massive house on a pile of dirt. This is going to be a fully finished, fully livable home that is all done and dusted in a fixed priced, full turnkey contract with everything that you could possibly need in the home. And Nikki and Mel that are in the office beside you, Tate, know the project incredibly well. They know the location and they're more than happy to talk somebody through it. The other benefit is because it is a split contract, you're buying the land and you're entering into a house, is you've got significant savings on your stamp duty.
Yeah, wow. And that's always a win. So when you turn that key and you get that new smell of the new home too, nothing beats that. No one else has lived in it. Everything is brand new.
Yep.
You get warranties on all that as well. I mean, the question only left is, where do you sign up?
Exactly. And they can talk to you. Yep. And we will get the contract ready for them. But that's actually one of the keys. People talk about the stress of building. We've tried to take all of that out. We try to give you visibility through the construction portal so you know exactly the status, and we secure it with a contract so you don't have to worry about variations or pricing changes. You can lock in your finance with your bank and then watch the house come to fruition.
It's great to have someone of your calibre from the gallery, Alexandra. It's been an absolute pleasure. At Tate Brownlee Real Estate, we open the doors to your future. Thank you again.
Thanks.